A subject that is often brought to a mentoring session is that of handling change. So in this session we're going to explore a model of change known as the Kubler-Ross change curve. And the objectives of this session are that at the end of it you'll be able to identify the stages in the model, explain the relevance of the model to the impact of change in organisations, and assess its use in mentoring. Kurt Lewin proposed that any state of performance is an equilibrium between driving forces for the change and resisting forces against change. So in order to bring about changes, then it needs the driving forces to be greater than the restraining forces. Here's an example of the steps to take to carry out a force field analysis. Firstly, set the goal or outcome. And then identify the driving forces. This can be done in many ways, for example, brainstorming, mind mapping, questionnaires, etc., and putting the driving forces onto the force field diagram. And then do the same with the restraining forces. And then assess the potency of the forces, for example, by marking them out of 10. And decide on a strategy that will either strengthen the driving forces or weaken the restraining forces. And create an action plan and implement. This is an exercise for you to experience force field analysis. Carry out a force field analysis on something you want to change. What was your experience? What did you learn by doing that? And how does force field analysis fit into the mentoring process? Here are some example answers to the second part of the question. It can be used to help the client understand the requirements of change and give them a process to follow. And a force field analysis can be incorporated into the mentoring session to help the client move forward. Now let's think about Lewin's unfreeze, change, freeze model. This model talks about the 3 stages of change. The first stage is unfreezing. Lewin suggests that the first thing we need to do in change is to let go of some old beliefs and open up to the possibility of change. So it is about getting ready for change. It's about discovering that things for the change outweigh the things against the change. It's about realizing that we don't have to keep on doing things the way we have been doing them. There may be other ways of doing it so that we get even better results. And this is about being ready and open to the possibility of change. Next comes the change itself. Lewin points out that change is not a thing, it's a process which happens over time. This stage is about opening up possibilities, new ways of doing things, new ideas, and then using them to bring about change. And the last stage is where the new way of doing things is frozen into place. This need not be for long, but some freezing is required for the person to implement the change and then move on to the next unfreeze, change, freeze process. When we're happily doing something in a particular way, we have certainty, and then the unfreeze process gets us to think about whether change is possible, and with this comes some level of uncertainty. And then, as a result of the change process, we find a new approach, a new certainty. Then we'll want to learn more, and so this process keeps on repeating itself. Here's an exercise to help you think about using the model in the mentoring process. What are the similarities between this model and the mentoring process? Write down your thoughts. And here are some answers. This model outlines the process of mentoring. And mentoring is all about helping people change. The job of a mentor is to help a client decide if change is needed, how to carry out the change, and then to implement and stabilize the new behavior until the next cycle begins all over again. So it's about taking someone through that unfreeze, change, freeze model. And all the roles in mentoring of coaching, giving advice, sponsoring, and networking are all geared to this process.